Hey guys, what's up? Z here, and I have a budget entry-level phone with a 6000 mAh battery, the Blackview P2 Lite. The Blackview P2 Lite is basically an entry-level version of the big battery beasts like the Blackview P2, Ulefone Power 2, or the Octa K6000 Plus. It costs just $120 on pre-sale, which is a good $50 cheaper than most of those phones I just mentioned, but you have to sacrifice something, right? And here that is the processor. It uses the older MTK6753 processor, and this CPU is pretty old now, so let's see if this phone is a good budget battery option. So the Blackview P2 Lite is the biggest phone out of all the other battery phones I've tested, including the Ulefone Power 2 and the Octa K6000 Plus. It's slightly bigger than both and thicker as well, so definitely a hefty phone. The body is CNC'd metal though, and so it feels quite premium in the hand as well. We find capacitive buttons below the screen, and that's a yes for me, but I know some of you guys hate off-screen capacitive buttons and the fingerprint sensor on the back as well. That being said, we have to settle. We also have a USB-C port as well, which is a great addition here. So moving on to the screen, we have a 5.5-inch 1080p IPS display, and the screen is quite crisp and sharp, displaying stuff on the screen pretty well. In terms of color and saturation, it's actually pretty decent. It shows some pretty vivid color, and the contrast is pretty good as well. Max brightness tops out at around 450 nits, which is definitely not bad at all. I can see it even in some bright sunlight. There is also no mention of protective glass protecting the screen, so do be careful with the screen here. And the touch response here is good as well. The audio volume here is not bad. It gives some decent volume, but audio quality really isn't that great. The sound is very tinny and empty and lacks bass as well. Have a listen for yourself.
How pleasant of you to join us. This party's over. Brave, but foolish, my old Jedi friend. You're impossibly outnumbered. I don't think so. We'll see.
So the 6000 mAh battery is massive, but keep in mind that the MTK6753 is less power efficient than the newer processor, so you cannot expect the same battery life as the Ulefone Power 2 or the Octa K6000 Plus. That being said, I was able to get very good battery life here, over 2 days and 7 hours of screen on time, and I had about 18% left. This also included heavy stuff like gaming, taking photos, and maps as well. I did a web browsing and video playback test, and I got around 12 hours for web browsing and 11 hours for video playback, which actually is not that great for such a big battery, but at least the real life results are pretty good. Fast charging also works. I could charge the phone completely within about 100 minutes, which is quite impressive considering it's a 6000 mAh battery. We have Android 7.0 installed on this phone, and general use is fast and fluid. No complaints here, well, except for the light scan on top. The icons are pretty ugly. The MTK processor does decently well at launching and closing apps. It does feel a bit slower than the Ulefone Power 2, but it's still smooth enough for everyday use. Multitasking is decent with 3 gigs of RAM, but you can hit the max RAM a lot faster than other phones with 4 GB. Moving on to gaming performance, some intense games lag a little bit like Asphalt 8 and Mortal Kombat, but they are still very playable on this phone. Less intense games work perfectly fine though. The last thing I want to talk about is the fingerprint sensor. It's accurate, but it's not that fast. Moving on to connectivity, the Blackview P2 Lite does get decent LTE speeds, as you can see in the speed test here, and reception is pretty decent as well. I didn't find any issues with Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, but GPS seems to be not that great. There's quite a bit of jumping around when navigating, which really isn't the greatest, but at least it did get me where I wanted to go. The back camera takes pictures with decent detail, and that's in good lighting conditions, but if you frame the camera just right, photos can actually look pretty good. In terms of color reproduction, colors are actually quite rich and saturated, which really surprised me, and if you turn on HDR, it actually washes the picture out. It does help when you want to capture bright and dark areas at the same time though. In low light, the camera captures quite a bit of noise and static as well, so no go there. The front camera performs about the same as the back one, except it captures less detail because it has less megapixels here. The camera takes 1080p video, but it doesn't capture a lot of detail as well. It does have pretty good colors though. So to conclude, the Blackview P2 is a pretty decent budget battery phone, but to be honest, the biggest problem here is the CPU. It's just a little bit slow. That being said, the P2 Lite has good build quality, good display, insane battery life, and the camera is surprisingly good, so not bad either. It costs about $120 on pre-sale, so it's also really cheap as well. That being said, if your budget allows, I highly recommend spending more money on the higher end Ulefone Power 2, Octa K6000 Plus, or the Blackview P2 with a newer processor. Thanks so much for watching, be sure to hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.